Okay, thank you guys for coming. Today we're going to talk about a hard wax finish. It's called Osmo. Osmo is very, very popular in Europe. It's very, very popular in Canada. It's a good product. It's what we call a hard wax finish. A hard wax finish is an oil finish with wax added. And it does some good things. It's got some really good properties. It's not hard to do at all. So here you see 4 of the ones that are really popular. It also has an outside finish. It also has, this is a cleaner and conditioner. Since you've got wax, this has wax in it. Over time, the wax can get dull. So if you want to clean it, if you wanted to freshen it up and make it look really good again, what it does is this is a solvent with wax in it, and the solvent liquefies the wax in here and then mixes with the new wax, and then when you wipe off the excess, you've got a fresh new coat of wax on, and you're good to go for another year or 2 or 3 or 4. Does a good job. What we're looking at here is the top oil. This is their food grade finish, even though all these are food grade after time. This is what you'd use for cutting boards, that type of thing. This is the poly wax. This is the finish that is really, really good. It's very strong. It's very hard. It's not quite as hard as a varnish finish, but it's close. So this does a very good job. This is the good oil and wax one. This is the ultra thin. The ultra thin is good for either large or small, and basically you put it on. You can flood it if you want to, wipe up all the excess, about 2 coats. This is the finish with color in it. It's wax. It's this poly with a color in it. And this particular one I've got here is black. And so all of this is raw wood up here. All of these have 1 coat on. And normally they call for 2 coats unless it's a tabletop. Then they want 3 coats. So if it's any vertical or if it's inside a drawer or anything, 2 coats. Any tabletop, you're going to put stuff on, 3 coats. Okay? So this is the colored one. And it comes out kind of good. Now all you're adding is a color, and depending where the color goes is depending on the little bits of wood here as far as the surface goes. So another piece is this piece. This is walnut. This is a walnut. If I want walnut, but I want a darker walnut, that I would put this finish on, and I from this to this. Plus, this is now going to highlight the grain. So if you're using a really, really white wood, you might not like this. But if you're using darker kinds of woods like cherry, getting up to the walnuts or anything like that, I think you might like the colors better, because here, this put a nice darker color in here, and it doesn't look like it's been stained. This is the ultra thin. Ultra thin is great. It pops grain, and it's very easy to use. A lot of people like to use this as the first coat because this is a deep penetrating oil. So you put this on, and then once you gave it the 8 to 10 hours to dry, then you'd put on 2 coats of the poly. This is the poly oil. Does a good job. This is again, I'm sorry, this is 1 coat. And like I said, you want 2 to 3 coats of this. And this is the top oil. This is the food grade. And again, you can mix and match these things, that they work very well. This is a nice figured piece of walnut with 1 coat of this on it. So it works really well. Now, how do we apply these things? Easily. We can apply them with pads. We can apply them with foam brushes. We can apply it with bristle brushes. We can apply it with rollers. We can even apply it with scrapers. So what we would do basically is, this is used for big tables. So you just take it and just spread it all around. A little bit of this stuff goes a long way. One thing they all have to be done is they have to be stirred. This type of oil here have to do is shake it. Actually, we can shake any of this stuff because how we put it on, there will be no air bubbles. There we go. And take it with a scraper if I'm doing a big area. Most likely though, I'm just going to use either a rag like this. I can use something like this, but we're going to start with this. And again, this is an oil wax combination. Want to see again? That's it. It's done. So what you want is thin, thin coats. This is a thin coat. And you can feel it on there. The thinner is better. A little bit goes a long way. This is what started it all. And for this one, you can wear gloves. There's a lot of natural stuff in here. There's no VOCs, you won't, no smell. So you want to stir it. And you want to stir it a while, because what you've got in this product is you've got little oil particles and you've got little wax particles, and they're floating in suspension right next to each other. Same with this, except this has much more wax in it. And it's a hard wax. Like I say, when this dries, it's very, very solid. It's easy to repair. If somebody puts a drink or something and water gets on the top piece of furniture, 99 times out of 100, it's not going to make a mark. If it does make a mark, sand it lightly, put a little of this oil on, wipe it off, it's prepared, and you won't be able to see the difference. Now, normally I would just drip this down on this, but for this one, take our white pad. You want to use the white one. Is the non-abrasive one. This one is like 3 or 4/0 steel wool. This is abrasive. This is not. So this is a great applicator. Now, why would I use this? This is an oil finish. Even though it's got wax and it's also an oil finish. You know that once this wood is saturated, you can do buildups, but with the buildups you're going to be sanding. You just can't lay it on here. You've got to work it in. There's natural oils. They operate really well, multiple layers, but 2 to 3 coats is really all that you need. So, take a little bit. Circular motions. And this, I'm pressing down hard. When you're using the pads like this, you want to give it a little downward pressure.
Don't get the same kind of pressure layer.
Well, yeah, and what you're going to find out that because of how I'm applying this with this type of pad, instead of brushes or anything like that, I'm getting a much smoother surface. Even though this has no abrasives in it, it's almost like you're burnishing the wood. So it's a nice soft finish. Now, one of the things to know is that if you use this, and this works for anything, floors, humidors, Adirondack chairs. Well, you use this for Adirondack chairs to go outside, but works really, really well. What you want to do now is you want to look up to the light to make sure, one, everything is covered and there's no pools sitting here. If there is, you want to wipe those up So this is as thin as we can get, a nice, good, thin coat. For a box, some small piece of thing that you're using that doesn't have a lot of weight to it, after this dries normally, go ahead and move it around. If this is on a floor, you're not going to walk on it or put anything on it for 4 to 5 days. Okay? If you're making a great big heavy piece of furniture, like a table, anything that you say, hey, please help me with this because it's heavy. Know that for 3 or 4 days you'll put fingerprints in the finish, but after 4 or 5 days you should be okay. So it takes a little longer to set up, but once it does, it's and these cans are much easier to seal. This was a need that people had big stuff to do, big huge tables, kitchen cabinet, and they just didn't want to be doing this. So this really does lend itself well to brushing. But the same thing applies. One, we're going to stir it, and two, we're going to not use a whole lot. And you can see that this is much thinner. Less solids, less wax. This, they want you to put multiple coats on if you want it thicker. You really don't need it thicker. You can put it on the same way. You can use the pad, but most folks like to use the brushes for this. You can use a foam brush. You can use a bristle brush. We'll use a little brush. We don't need much at all, just a little bit. And we just work this in. And this is when we're going to take a look at the reflection. I got a big area here if I need to get a little more in here. So if you've got a shop light that you can put down low, so you can see this, or if it's not a particularly big piece, you can just hold it up to the light.
If you have to wipe any of these off, and why would you pick one of those last three?
This is really good for long, big things. This is also good as a first coat because it's going to penetrate the wood much deeper than any of these other will. And then from there you build up with one of these other combinations. Does a very, very good job. If it needs to be wiped off, we can use this. And you're going to wipe off most of these things. When I say most of them, I mean all of them. These have been on here. We can do anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour. So with these, we can use these to wipe off. And this is tucked on, so we'll use another part. This has to be applied to raw wood, or wood that's not sealed. So you can use a regular stain on it, a dye stain or a pigment stain, but not shellac. Shellac's going to seal the wood. Because of that, the oil can't get into the wood, and then you're just going to have a sticky, gooey mess. So really no sealers on these.
How does it compare to Rubio Monocoat?
They're very, very similar. They both are hard waxes. Rubio Monocoat was designed to go in one shot. That's why I call it monocoat. One coat does it all. It's a little more difficult to use. Also, with the Rubio, you've got to put in a hardener and mix it exactly 2/3 to 1/3. And instead of a 7-day drying time, you're going to have a 2 or 3 day drying time. So Rubio does a good job. It's very popular, but you're down. You put that coat on and you go away for basically 4 to 5 days, depending on if you use a hardener or not. If you didn't use a hardener, more like a week or two. So this, in real time, is a much faster type of finish. Normally, you're going to get hours to 10 hours to dry before you put a second coat on. If you're using it with other products, say like a stain, a pigment stain or a dye stain, but especially a pigment stain, you put the stain on, you let the stain dry for 2 days before you put this on. But they all does a very, very good job. It's easy to use, and it's easy to fix if we get a boo-boo. If I get a fix in this color one, then I would put this on, wipe up the excess, and this is good out of the bottle, or I like to put a cover coat on this. So I would use this product here, the Poly, to put a cover coat on this. And this does a very good job. So basically, to apply it, bristle brushes, this is the polyester, this is bristle. We can use foam, we can use spreaders, we can use these. And once we got them down, we're good to go. 2 coats, 2 coats, 2 coats. We're ready to go. These are done now. So if we're using them in as drawer fronts or something like that, they're good. If these were a little bit bigger, was going to be a tabletop, we wait a day and give them another coat. I always found out, no matter what finish I'm using, that basically I want to give them 24 hours. So I'll put this on, then I'll leave the shop and I'll come back the next day. It's just easier that way. It gives more time for the solvents to flash off. The reason you don't put coats on right on top of each other, because the solvents underneath the top coat are trapped. It's going to take them much longer to get out. So now that finish is very weakened, and it's going to stay weakened for weeks before all those solvents get out. So it's actually going to take you longer to have that finish do what it's supposed to do if you take the short route. So it's always better, I think, just when you're done, let it wait for 24 hours. Yeah, where did this go? There should be enough left on this to do this. There we go. You really, really don't need much of this product. And that's for all the hard wax, the Odis, the monocoats, Rubio monocoats, the Brie wax, hard wax. Normally with all those, you're gonna, not so much the Odis, but that you can flood them on, move them all up, come off really, really well. Of course, then you've got oily rags, so you have to worry about combustion, so let them dry like laundry. And then when they're like cardboard, throw them away normally. So this, we had enough left over to give this a second coat. One thing I want to pay attention to is the colors. Okay, this is all the same piece of wood. I just chopped it up. So you can see that the top oil and the poly are true to the color of the wood. This one, since it's thinner, it doesn't have the wax in it, but it's got proportionally more oil. So here you see the amber that the oil causes. Okay, so these are really good for maintaining. If you want to, I'm using walnut and I want a nice amber glow to make the wood really look warm, then this is a great product. It's easy to use, brush, wipe off, walk away. you're pretty much done. Again, same thing, 2 to 3 coats, depending on if it's going to be the top of the table or on the sides. Same applies to this. This does a good job, but fortunately I don't have anything here that's old nasty wax on so we can clean up and take off, but that's what this does. We've got a whole range of products. Like OD's oil, like the Monocoat, when you look at the bottom of the can and the price and go, ha ha, just remember, all these products are designed for a little bit to go a long way. If you're using this to spread the product around, you're only doing it to save time. You're not doing it to save money. Because any wax that you end up on here, it does you no good. You want to leave it there. When you actually buff it out later, if you can't feel the wax on it, you use just enough. So, but if you're pushed for time, you want to get it done in the shop, out of the shop, yeah, you can take this, you can pour it down, you move it, you can just take a big scoop, flop it in there, and just spread it all on with this. It spreads really well, and you just keep working it in. What you're trying to do is get the wax into the little nooks and crannies of the wood. How this works, the oil in this goes right into the wood. That leaves you with the wax. What we're trying to do is force the wax into the pores. And that's going to give you your nice sheen. This comes in matte, satin, and gloss. Gloss is more like, satin is the good compromise. You can make it look great with satin. If you need something dead flat, they have a matte finish that's absolutely dead flat. It just depends what you like. If I'm doing furniture, I like satin or matte. I don't like to see reflections off the furniture. If I'm making stuff to go on top of the furniture, humidors, bowls, anything I'm making, then I'm probably going to go to a satin or a gloss just to let it stand out a little bit. It stands apart from the furniture. You don't lose it in the furniture. And but normally glossy furniture is not a good thing. Any questions?